Definitely a lot of controversy, and of course, a very tragic situation that unfolded there in Texas at an elementary school. Law enforcement is under fire because it took them over an hour to make entry into the school. Parents were pleading with them to go inside and get their children. And now, some of those parents who don't have their children anymore say those were critical moments where the police should have taken action. Now, as far as a timeline, the call came in about 11:30, and then it took them forever, it seems like, in order to get inside, where ultimately the shooter was shot and killed. Now, a lot of controversy surrounding how he got that weapon as well. Although the door was unlocked at the school and he went in, many people saying he shouldn't have been able to buy the weapons that he used. And there's been a large talk about gun control over here in the US, with student walkouts happening this week following the incidents in Texas, just all the way around a terrible situation.
And you talk about gun control there, and we hear from leaders after it seems almost every mass shooting in the US that there will be change, that they want change. But in the end, there is almost no change after all these mass shootings. Are we actually expecting anything to come of this one?
You know, Leo, I have seen an incredible amount of calls for change with this shooting. Now, every time there is a terrific shooting here in the US, there are calls for gun control and change and tighter rules. However, with this specific case, I have seen more about gun control and gun safety measures than I have regarding any other shooting in recent times. So I think this will ultimately be the one that does get something done if it does. But you have to keep in mind, Republicans and Democrats are gridlocked on this. They want to find a solution, it seems, but it seems at this point that neither side is really willing to give what the other one wants. So at this point, it's kind of gridlocked. But there are a lot of calls, certainly many more with this shooting than recent ones.
Now, as we all know, this happened at a school, an elementary school. These are, for Australian viewers, primary school age school kids. You obviously are a student yourself. You're graduating, so congrats on that. But you would have obviously done many active shooter drills during your time at school. Can you explain to us here in Australia what they're actually like?
Yeah, certainly. So we actually conduct these on a pretty routine basis just to be prepared in case something terrible happens. And so what happens is we actually call it a full lockdown drill. So members from the school will come on the intercom and let us know that it's a full lockdown. And so on a full lockdown, that is when we go and hide. We get something to throw at the intruder if possible, because although the doors are always locked, if they're able to gain entry into the building and then into a classroom, we're going to fight back because, that person has a gun. We need to disable them somehow. So, they say to grab anything in sight, really. So if you have scissors, perhaps, or if you have a book or pens, whatever the case, throw it at that person. We're actually told to do this in many situations during drills because they want us to essentially fight if possible, which, according to researchers, they say that that's actually really a good thing to do aside from just hiding and ducking and waiting to be found by the shooter. If you can fight back and try and disable them, then the odds are much greater that they're able to do less harm than they may would have otherwise. So we go through these, as I mentioned, on a pretty routine basis. There are also tests done by many school districts in the US, in which case they will have an intruder like person go into a building, and they will let them walk around, and they test different schools to see how quickly they're able to recognize that someone from the outside is inside. They also work with law enforcement. So local law enforcement, typically, at least where I am, they have a very good understanding of the setup in the school as to where the classrooms are, where the doors are, so on and so forth. And law enforcement actually comes in sometimes to participate in these drills so that they can be ultra prepared.
And just finally, just quickly, here in Australia, we'll obviously have our own lockdown drills, but those are usually for things like an out of control dog on the school grounds, a student out of control, but not a student with a weapon. We'll have fire drills too. Are these active shooter drills, and then because we do see these mass shootings happen regularly? It's awful to say that, but it happens regularly. Are those drills considered like normal? Like, do people just think, okay, it's another drill? Because I can't imagine having to do a drill based on the situation of a shooter coming into my school.
We've always had drills for various things. The lockdown drill has been around for quite a while because if police are chasing a suspect around the school building within, I think there's approximately a mile of distance or something related to that, then the school would be notified and we would go into kind of a halfway lockdown. And then for the full lockdown, that's always been in place in case, for example, a parent were to come into the front office and get super irate and potentially pose a risk to the children. We've always had these measures in place, but in light of school shootings, they've kind of transitioned from an irate parent or a minor security concern to more so of an active shooter type situation. Because, as you mentioned, how it's very, very tragic and it's not to be taken lightly, but these things do happen more and more frequently. And we always want to be the best prepared that we can be. And so, although the drills have been around for a while, they've been kind of rebranded in a sense to focus more on school shootings.
We'll leave it there. Jackson Gosnell, our US correspondent in South Carolina for us tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Leo.